Time is precious. Welcome everyone to our Father's Day workshop about sharing the stories of fatherhood. My name is Monica Davis with Monica Davis Group, and with us is here today Rosh Lowe, the founder of MicDrop. One of my favorite quotes from Rosh is, "My hope is that people could share their stories and inspire and help others. We don't have this today due to the fear of public speaking and a feeling that our story doesn't matter." To tell you a little bit more about Rosh Lowe, he started at an age of 9 years old in numerous Broadway shows. Rosh was also a television news reporter for Fox News for 15 years, and he also was awarded Reporter of the Year in 2013. The most valued skills in his profession are now adapted to the craft and the use of his MicDrop method. So today it's an honor to have Rosh with us, talking to us and to all the fathers that are on right now and that are here with us today about the stories of fatherhood. Hi, Rosh. How are you today?
Good. Hi, Monica. How are you? It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And over the next couple of hours, I'm going to introduce everybody who is listening to this to the method that I created several years ago of expression and communication. And this is a method that can be used in many different arenas. It can be used for personal development. It can be used inside of your company for team building. It can be used for branding. For these purposes today, though, we're going to talk about how it can be used in expressing yourself to your family. One of the things that we have seen that came out of COVID is that priorities have changed a little bit. People understand one important thing, and that is time is precious, as Monica said. Well, we see it every single day. We've seen young people who have had their lives taken from them. We've seen people get sick, and it's made a lot of us reprioritize how are we spending our time. Many of us don't properly express ourselves to those that we love. And why is this? Well, when people think of public speaking, they think of grand stages, right? They think of standing on a stage and they say, you know what, I really don't need to learn that skill. But public speaking is more than grand stages. It is the conversation that you have with your husband or wife. It is the conversation you have with your children. It is the conversation you have with friends and family members. Now, if these conversations are so important and we understand how precious time is, then how come the majority of us waste those moments? The reason why is that the fear of public speaking affects about 75% of the population. That means 3 out of 4 people listening to this or watching this have a fear of speaking, have a fear of properly expressing themselves. Now, as Monica mentioned, I grew up in the theater. I was a television news reporter for, in total, almost 18 years, actually. And it amazed me that so many people, because I took it for granted, just couldn't express themselves, couldn't find a way to express themselves to their loved ones, to their family, to their colleagues, to their clients. And I said, I want to create a method based on my own experience, not based on theory, but based on experience. How can I give people this gift of expression? So if you're watching this right now and you say to yourself, gosh, I recognize how precious time is. And gosh, I recognize how important my family is. Then make a promise to yourself that after this time together, that you will use your story to connect and uplift others. And so what I'm going to do today, because I don't like teaching theory, is I want to take everybody through the step-by-step method that I created. And you can take your own notes on this. You can, at the end of this, you can chime in. We have some panelists, so towards the end of it, I'll have some people speaking. But in the meantime, just kind of take in what I am teaching here. When it comes to coaching, I don't like theory. I just don't. I like practicality. So I want to make this very, very practical. So when we started MicDrop, I developed this workbook, and I'm going to get to the workbook right now. And this is the workbook that's coming up. It should come up on your screen right there. I called it Liberate Yourself because, quite frankly, when you can't speak, you're imprisoned. And so in the very introduction of this, here's what I talk about, and let me know if it resonates with you. I say you're about to be in a journey where you will reconnect with the most unique aspects of yourself and tap into a deep level of self-confidence. For 2 decades as a television news reporter, I've been telling people stories. And I've always approached my interview subjects with sensitivity and a deep appreciation of their story. So this is very important, everybody, if you're listening to this. So many of my clients begin this journey by mistakenly believing that nothing interesting has happened to them. Or if it has, no one cares to hear their story. This could not be more wrong. Everyone has a story, and everyone has overcome obstacles in their lives. Now, look what I say here. Every conversation can be that much more meaningful when you begin to get in touch with your own story. Okay, this is how this ties into Father's Day, everybody. Every conversation can be that much more meaningful when you begin to get in touch with your own story. I've had clients share how the skills improve their dating lives, their relationship with their spouses, or the ability to express themselves with family members. Public speaking is not just about grand stages. Sometimes the most important audience is that one person. It could be your son, it could be your daughter, it could be your husband, it could be your wife. If up until this point you've ignored the importance of public speaking, you are not alone, because silence is comfortable. But communication, on the other hand, takes effort, vulnerability, and persistence. So now let's get into this. What is this method that I created about? And by the way, this method has been used at Goldman Sachs, Boys and Girls Club, the United States military, for private individuals who want to take the stage. And I encourage all of you to go look at our MicDrop speeches. I pride myself on taking people who really feel like they never belonged on a stage, and I put them on the stage. And this comes from my time as a performer. Let me tell everybody, I was in 3 Broadway shows before the age of 11, and I made my Broadway debut in Maine with Angela Lansbury when I was 9 years old. And on opening night, when I was standing in the wings, I felt an overwhelming sense of nervousness, and I looked at Angela and I said, "I'm nervous," and she said, "Nerves are good." So I understand when people say they're nervous about fully expressing themselves. And now it's my opportunity to pass along the gift to you. Now, Warren Buffett said, there's one investment that supersedes all: invest in yourself. And you know what Warren Buffett was talking about when he said this? He said, in order to be successfully, professionally and personally, in order to be successful, that you got to invest in yourself because no one will tax it, right? So public speaking or expression begins with connection. So I begin in this book by saying, how does an actor stand on stage connect with an audience? What are the 3 qualities that a performer must have to move an audience? I put in some of the answers here in just the interest of time, and I say body language, right? Authenticity, and look at this, everybody. Emotion. Emotion, 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 emotion. Emotion is your most valuable connective device. When we talk about emotion, we get into issues where people are very afraid to use emotion. You cannot be afraid to use emotion if you want to connect. If you want to connect with your family, if you want to connect with those you love the most, you need to use emotion. Why is this? Let me highlight this, for example. This comes from Aristotle, where in the art of persuasion, which is a fancy way of saying, how do you connect with somebody? You need 3 things. You need ethos, pathos, and logos. So what you need is you need character, emotion, and facts. Ethos is character. Ethos is who are you? Who is delivering the message? Pathos is emotion and logos is fact. So if we know how powerful emotion is, and by the way, emotion is not only tears. Emotion could be hope, emotion could be joy. If we know how powerful emotion is, emotion can be, I love you. If we know how powerful emotion is, why don't we use emotion? Let me stop sharing the workbook for a second.
Estadísticas ahí en el.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so let me stop sharing the workbook for a moment there and see if anyone, if this resonates with anyone. If anyone on this webinar says, you know what, I have a difficult time showing emotion. Does this resonate with anybody out there? I have a difficult. And the question is, why do you have such a difficult, if we know how powerful it is to use emotion, right? In sales, in connection, then why don't we use emotion? Why don't we do this? So let me get back to the workbook here, and I'm going to tell you exactly where the fear of public speaking comes from. The fear of expression comes from. It has nothing to do with words. You know where it comes from, everybody? Here's the secret that I'm going to give you today. Let's get to it. Let's show you where it comes from. If I can get back to this. Here we go. The fear of public speaking. Go down in the workbook a little bit. We'll get back up to this point. The fear of public speaking comes from, what's this word here? Vulnerability. And this is what most people say. Nobody is listening. My message is not clear. And I'm telling everybody, if you want to connect with those you love the most, you need to be vulnerable. This is where the fear comes from. It's a fear of judgment. It's a fear of vulnerability. It's a fear of opening yourself up. But as long as you live with that fear, you will never be able to truly connect. And now I'm going to take you through the process of how do you connect. So I want you to write down 3 things that you are passionate about. Now I'm going to give you a speech that you can give to your family for Father's Day. This is the gift that I'm going to give all of you today. I'm going to give you the gift of a speech you can actually sit down, and instead of just having a dinner where you don't say anything, why don't you take this year and actually express yourself to those you love? Does that sound like a good idea? So I use this method in companies for leadership speeches. I use it for personal development when people want to take the stage. I use it for expression, but in these purposes, it's for your Father's Day. I want you to write down 3 things that you're passionate about. And don't tell me your family, because we're all passionate about our families. But I want you to be more specific than that. This could be a person. It could be a social cause. It could be a future desire. I want you to write it down. Now, Monica, is there a volunteer from the panelists that I can take through this section?
Yes, we have Roberto, Subal, Ivan. So let's start with Ivan.
Okay. So Ivan, the first question is what are you passionate about? You're giving a speech to your family, right? And you're gonna tell your family something very important tomorrow night. What are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about education.
Okay. Now, if we go to the workbook,
When I say education, is educating my kids, basically. Not education like educating myself, but educating them.
okay. When we go to the workbook, the next level is what I call the passion nexus, and that is, where does that passion come from? Where does your passion come from that you want to educate? Now, I'm going to give you a hint, and this is true about 100% of the time. Usually, a passion nexus or where a passion comes from is a lack thereof. Meaning this: if I tell you I'm passionate about making money, usually I grew up without money. If I tell you I'm passionate about helping people, usually I didn't get help. So,
well, I want them to be better than I am. I want them to have better opportunities.
There you go.
Much better opportunities.
So stop for a moment now. Now, when was the last time you told them that?
I have told them, but not enough. Once in a while, I tell my daughter, when you grow up, you got to do this, you got to do that. But
everybody listening, this is the value. Tomorrow night, you're going to give a whole speech around this issue. You're going to stand up, and for the first time, you're going to fully express why education is so important to you and why you want them to be better than you.
Right.
Instead of, and most people live their lives saying, oh, I kind of said this. No. The reason that you fully haven't said this is because you haven't had a roadmap. So let's go through the roadmap, and everybody listening can follow through. So you discover what your passion is, and then you discover where it comes from. And that passion nexus is always tied to a life event. Let me give you an example. Michael Jordan. They asked him what he's passionate about. He said, I'm passionate about winning. They said, why? He said, I tell you exactly why. I was cut from my 8th grade basketball team. So what life event? Give me a specific life event where you can go back and say, you know what? That was the moment where I said, I want my kids to be better than me.
Well, there has been things that I have started and not finished for whatever the reason, whatever the reason. So to me, I regret that now. And I said to myself, there were a few things that in college I should have done. And that's the reason why I try to be like, I want my kids to do what they need to do. I want them to be passionate about education and to understand how important that is.
Okay, so part of speaking, and everybody watching this or listening to this, and it's Ivan, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Ivan through the process so a lot of you can learn. Is when you speak, I want you to show me and not tell me. So instead of just saying, there were several opportunities and I didn't take it, show it to me. So show me. Tell me about it.
No, I don't know how to do that.
Well, that's why we're here.
I don't know where to begin.
So start someplace. If you're giving this speech tomorrow, what is the one regret that you had when it came? What was one mistake you made that you don't want your children to make?
Well, the mistake is that. The mistake is there were a few careers that I never finished, and I should have finished them.
So as you're putting this together tomorrow, I want you to think about a specific example that you don't have to share it now to this wide audience, but that you can share to them. Okay?
Sure. Actually, I'll tell you. I was actually a paramedic,
okay,
and I wanted to be a fireman. But when I went to fire school, I was afraid of heights. And something around the way, around there. Maybe I should have not quit. Let's say.
right.
And I did something else, which I regret it because I still love that,
Right. And why did you?
So for me, that's why I try to teach my kids.
And why did you stop? Because you allowed your fears to get the best of you?
Yeah, exactly.
So your message, and we'll get into this tomorrow in a moment, is never allow fear to rule your decisions.
Got it.
That would be the greatest Father's Day gift you can give to me. Because I did just that.
Cool.
You see the deeper level of connection? And you see how priceless this could be? You see how priceless this could be? Just with a little passion exercise, and to see where the passion comes from, you open up connection. and we're going to help put this whole speech together. So we'll get back to Ivan in a second. Monica, can you give me another person that I can go through the passion exercise with? I hope I gave you something to think about, Ivan.
Yes, yes. We have Subal with us.
Okay. Subal.
Hi, Subal. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I really do appreciate that. And thanks, Rob, for this wonderful seminar.
Yes. So let's take it to you for a moment. So you just saw what I went through with Ivan, where if you had to give a message to your family tomorrow, and we'll get into message in a moment, but it first starts with passion. What are you passionate about?
Passion, I guess we would broadly categorize as I would say art and design. Specifically, what I do as I'm in photography, and I've always been a fan of or have loved some form of design, and something that I actually never went to school for. I just have a passion for.
But how does that relate with what you would pass along to your children?
So I guess to me, what that feels like is that I never grew up as a artsy looking type of guy. I didn't have the necessary stereotypical credentials to be artistic or in any form a designer type guy. And so for me, it was really hard to understand that my passions didn't need to be associated to any type of stereotype or didn't require any type of previous experience in certain areas. Ooh. And to be brave enough to step into those out of your comfort zone and to break free of what expectations there might be externally and to meet your own expectations internally. And I would love for my family, especially my two kids that are a little younger right now, but I would hope that they would learn from my experience and be able to follow the passions regardless of any external voice that they might hear.
So be brave enough to follow your passion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be brave enough to follow your passion. What an important message, and what a loving message from a dad. How old are your children?
My boy is 2.5, and my little girl is 3 months.
Oh, how sweet.
So we're learning a lot about communication right now.
Yeah. So eventually, you would want to pass that message along to them, that they can be anything they want to be. But you can't do that unless you tie it into you. And what I mean by that is that connection is always about the personal story. What is your story? So just like how you brought me through your story, that's the way we connect. When I said to Ivan, show me and don't tell me, when I tell you something, I am preaching to you. When I show you something, I am connecting you. Mm-hmm. So if I tell you, follow your passions, that's one level. But if I show you how I followed my passions, that's where we connect. And that's part of what this method is about. This method is based upon the power of the personal narrative. What is your narrative? What do you stand for? Great leaders understand this. This is why Steve Jobs talked about how he was adopted and how he was left Reed College. This is why Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, talked about growing up in poverty on the east side of Manhattan. So great leaders understand that when they use their story, they connect. Unfortunately, as parents, many parents don't use our stories to connect with our children. We don't sit down with them and tell them, this is who your mom is, this is who your dad is, this is who your mom stands for, this is who your dad stands for, these are our values, these are our passions, this is who we are. Okay, so let's get into the next step in this. And so I'm going to help everybody share the story, and then we'll have another volunteer for the next part, which is where do your passions come from? But beyond that, let me try to get it here. Oh, I'm sorry. Application window. Okay. So now we've got the passion nexus. And now the passion roadblocks. I want you to write down 3 factors that have stopped you from expressing and following your passion. These may be internal blockages, such as nerves or fear of judgment, or external obstacles, such as specific life circumstances or people. Now, this is very, very important, because what I'm trying to do here is I want you to get in touch with what is holding you back. What is holding you back from expressing your passions? What is holding you back from fully conquering your fear of public speaking? Is it nerves? Is it fear of judgment? Is it external obstacles? Are they people in your life? Has someone told you somewhere along the line, shut up or sit down, and sit down? You'd be surprised. Here's what's key, everybody. Nobody is born with a fear of speaking. It is a learned trait. It is learned anxiety. What that means is that somewhere along the line, somebody told you that speaking is dangerous. Look at these roadblocks closely. They are separating you from the freedom of following your passion. We heard from Ivan, right? I bet if I got Ivan back up here right now, he would tell me that the blockages, such as nerves or fear, were a major impediment to his freedom. Our goal is to move the roadblocks out of your way. How are we going to do this? The roadblock is the bully in your life. It is intimidating you into silence. And I write this here. What makes you most nervous about speaking? Nobody is listening. Remember at the very beginning of this, I talked about how people think that their story doesn't matter. And I say, why are you afraid of judgment? You've got to let that go. And this is really key. So this is the real you. This is, and I say ego. And ego has a lot of negative connotations. And I agree, humility is special, but not when it comes to speaking. So if you're going to stand up at your dining room table and give a speech, you have to say to yourself, you know what? I have something important to say. And ego is really the most confident version of yourself. See, what happens in life a lot, and I see it every day in the work that I do, is that life piles dirt on top of you. You know what that dirt is? Insults, put downs, insecurities. And what happens is you wind up walking around and you're not the true you. How many of you can relate to that? Where every single day you're walking around with these fears and insecurities, and it all comes from external factors. It's not you. And so what I want you to do is I want you to tap into the real you. Who is that person? And I write the question here. Is that person courageous, confident, happy? Go back to that person who was powerful, especially now. Don't walk around as the person that society has turned you into. We are creating the character who will become your safe haven at any speaking event. Now, here's what the start of a speech would be. A speech begins with message. It doesn't begin with hellos. It doesn't begin with thank yous. It doesn't begin with apologies. Ever heard that? You get up and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I won't take up too much of your time." No, it begins with message. So if you're driving down I-95 and you see your face on a billboard, what does the billboard say? Or a better example for Father's Day, if your children see your picture, what does the picture say? For this, I will need a volunteer.
We have Roberto with us.
Okay, Roberto. How many children do you have, Roberto? Oh, you're still on mute.
You are in mute.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm a father to 3 beautiful daughters.
How old?
26, 24, and 16.
How often do you express yourself to them?
Well, my passion since 10 years ago is to serve our Lord. And that's basically my dream, to have them also bring into our Lord. So I'm trying to express all the time my spirituality and to have them connecting with our Lord And that's my challenge right now.
Where does your passion come from?
As I said, that was about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, I was facing a divorce, and that was the time that I actually started following our Lord. That was the time that actually I met our Lord Jesus Christ, and I was to a retreat. I went to a retreat, and that was the time that I start, walking with our Lord.
How often have you expressed this story?
Well, they know that because they were part of that, the bad situation. That was a really painful situation that we had. And I'm pretty sure that they also want to follow our Lord, but at the same time, they are not 100% sure for everything that I'm trying to teach them. So sometimes I'm afraid to talk about that.
Right. So this is great that you're on this, because the art of persuasion involves three things. It involves character, emotion, and facts, right? So what would your message be?
My message is that our Lord is our real happiness, and that we are going to find peace, and we are going to find the way to live. If we have Him in our life.
So let's define that message. And for everybody listening to this, a message has to be very quick and to the point. So I'll give you examples of messages. Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. Mm-hmm.
Or yes, you can. Or make America great again. Right? Simple, to the point, action oriented. So let's make this message strong to your family. What would the message be?
If you are suffering, just believe in our God. He's the only one that can give you the tools to, I would say that. I don't know.
So no, we're going to make it stronger. Happiness is found in God.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So what would follow that, and everybody listening to this, remember I talked about ethos, which is character. Who is delivering the message? So Roberta, if I came over to you and I said, hard work pays off, what's the first thing you're going to say to me?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
If I come over to you and I say, hard work pays off, what do you say?
Hard work.
Let me give you the answer. If I come to you and I say hard work pays off, the first thing that you should say is, who are you to tell me that? I don't know you. Who are you to tell me that? So what always has to follow message is character. And even though you're speaking to your children, when you say that happiness is found in God, you need to develop your character to them. What are some things they don't know about you? What are some things that you may have never expressed to them? And usually that comes from the polar opposite. How unhappy were you? And what was the worst moment? And I'm glad we're getting a little spiritual in a certain sense here, because you will see an overall story structure. That the way we educate people is through our struggle. We educate people through our struggle, and we first see this with the patriarchs of Isaac and Abraham and Jacob, right? And their struggles. You remember the story of Joseph? He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. But the story doesn't end when he's in the pit. And we know the details of the pit. We know about the serpents and the snakes. It doesn't get much worse than that. But we're told the story of Joseph because we learn the power of forgiveness from Joseph. My point in saying this is that this is where vulnerability comes in. When you're allowed to bring people into how, Roberto, how unhappy you were, that's when you can show the realization of your happiness.
Sometimes we believe that we are actually talking to our family or that they know everything about us, and we believe that we don't have to talk about something very
Exactly.
specific,
Exactly. And they don't.
and they don't. Yeah.
One of the greatest gifts my father, of blessed memory, passed away 4 years ago, but one of the greatest gifts my dad ever gave me is he would tell me the stories. He would tell me about my grandparents. He would tell me about where he came from. He was a storyteller. I knew all of his stories of grade school, of high school, of dental school, of his struggles, of his dreams. And guess what the beauty of that is? I carry them on today. If my father would never have expressed what he was passionate about, which in his case was fighting for the underserved, then I don't know if my passion today would be to lift people up. But because my father was a storyteller and would constantly express this to me, even though he's gone physically, spiritually, he's still very much alive because I am carrying on his work every day.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And that is the beauty of this, that our bodies are finite, but our legacies are not, only if we can express them.
Amen.
If God is your passion, then share your passion. If you believe that God can bring you happiness, then share this, but develop a message. What is my message? And now we can get back to the workbook and see how we're going to go from sharing your message to actually putting together a speech. So let's go to it. So everybody should write down their message in this box. And what I say is, what moment in your life best expresses the headline? Remember to make it personal. Now, we just spoke with Roberto about ethos or building up character. I'm going to give you a little head start here. Here are some questions that you should ask yourself before you connect with your family, or with anyone for that matter, is what is your present day motivation to succeed? Describe a defining moment in your childhood. Tell me about your family. Now, this is your family growing up. How did your family shape your life view? Now, this is critical, everybody. Who was your first role model? And what did this person teach you about overcoming adversity? What difficulties have you faced in your life? How have those challenges made you stronger? And what have you come to realize about yourself out of those difficulties? Let me go back to this. Remember when I just gave the example of Joseph and how we learn through struggle? When you are speaking to people, when you are sharing the personal narrative, what you want to do, this is also known as the hero's journey, right? You want me to tell you about who your first role model was and what this person taught you about overcoming adversity. And here, what difficulties have you faced? And how have those challenges made you stronger? And what have you come to realize about yourself out of those difficulties? And what can you teach other people from your experiences? This is the groundwork of your personal brand. So before you can convince any audience with a message, what you need to do is you need to develop your personal brand. Who are you? Where do you come from? What was your family like? Tell me about your parents. Tell me about some difficulties that you have been through. What did you come to realize about yourself out of those difficulties? So I began this session with talking about when you put together a personal narrative or a speech. And in this case, we're focusing on a speech to your family. The first thing you're going to think about is, what is my passion? Where does my passion come from? And what is my message? We've gone through those steps, right? Then you have to explain to your family or to your loved ones or to your clients or to your employees or to your colleagues, because this all applies, is who are you? In leadership training, we call this the humanization of leadership. People work much harder and much better for people who they see as human. And in society today, we are sorely missing this. We are sorely missing humanization in the workplace, humanization in law enforcement, humanization in schools. We need to see each other as human beings again. But once again, this goes back to vulnerability. In order for people to see you as a human being, you need to be vulnerable. You need to tell them about what were your struggles, what you learned from your struggles. And basically that message is, what is my personal mission statement? So this is my formula, everybody. I told you I'm going to give you real value on this call. This is the formula that every MicDrop speaker has used, and it's 5 parts. A speech begins with message. So as you are putting together your speeches, think about, what is my message? The message of the speech is the reason you are there. What are you trying to convey to the audience? Now, character is the section where the audience gets to know you. We call this the why do I care factor. This is, who are you, right? So when you begin a speech, there's a separation between the speaker and those listening. And really it's, why should they want to listen to you? Now this is funny because, well, not funny, but interesting, because when I first put this together, and this was for employees and employers, but this very much applies to families. Think about how many times you have stood in front of your children and you have something to say and they don't really listen to you. That's because it's your fault. Why do they go back to their phone and like, yeah, mom, yeah, dad, yeah, sir? Because you are not engaging them. As a speaker, you need to engage your audience with the message. And this is key. What does the audience want from me? What do your children want from you? What do they want? You got to think about that before you do it. So with character, we'll build up that character by giving me 2 or 3 stories about who you are. And now, this is the most important part of your speech that you're going to give, and this is conflict. Audiences connect with struggle. And this can be a personal struggle, it can be a societal struggle, but what is the struggle in your story, or what is the problem, and what is the solution? The solution is realization. It's a portion of a speech where lessons are learned. Now, to simplify all this, I'll stop sharing for a moment and go right here. This is the hero's journey. Ready? I want to just kind of show everybody what this is. So a message is here. And I consider a message like a hook. This hooks your audience, right? This gets them away from texting like this. This brings them in. Then they're reeled in even more when you tell them a little bit about yourself. Maybe something you haven't told them before. Several stories. Then after you reel them in like this, then you get to the most important part of the speech, and that is conflict. What is the problem? In one case, it may be not allowing fear to rule your decisions. In another case, it may be of having an absence of God in your life. But what is the problem? But more importantly, what is the solution? And you're going to show me. You're not going to tell me. You're going to show me and not tell me. You're going to give me life events, life stories where you show me and not tell me. And then that goes into closing message. And what a closing message is this. You have one of 2 options in a closing message. A closing message is either a call to action, which is when you leave this table, I want you to, or it's a future vision. It's, you know, I imagine in the future, this is the way it's going to be. So let's get another volunteer up here, Monica.
Okay. Let's go back with Ivan.
All right, Ivan.
Mhm.
So I hope you've been paying attention as we've been going along.
I was listening for sure, definitely. It's very interesting.
Okay, so your children are how old?
My daughter is 8 years old today.
Wow.
Happy birthday.
So
Thank you.
this sets this up perfectly. You're going to say, one of your great presents, I want to tell you about your dad.
I honestly don't know right now. I have to think about it. But like I said, I think I should spend more time with them, talking to them about myself. Sometimes I don't.
Okay, so we're gonna do it right.
Very little.
We're gonna do it right now. What is your message to them?
My message to them is that I want them to be successful. I want them to not struggle. I want them to be focused, to learn, to be interested in learning, in getting to know the world.
Remember, a message.
Traveling. I used to travel a lot, so I want them to.
A message has to be clear and to the point. What is your message?
I don't know. You need to
How
help me.
about fear?
To not be right, to be fearless, to not fear anything, to do what your heart tells you to do.
Right. So how would you put that in the form of a message?
That I have to work on.
Fear leads to what?
Confusion. Don't know.
Let's go through it. This is why I'm here.
I want them to, in all honesty, I want them to do what they're, if they have a passion, I want them to be able to do whatever needs to be done in order for them to accomplish.
So follow your passion.
Follow your passion.
That's your message. Then in character development, you would have to tell them a little bit about who you are. So tell me.
I don't know where to begin, in all honesty.
Well, remember those questions that I put down there? Where did you grow up? What were your parents like? Who was your first role model? What difficulties have you faced in your life? And
well, my father was my role model, because my parents are still alive. He worked so hard and came to this country. He didn't know how to speak English. He doesn't know how to, he understands, but he doesn't know how to speak English. But he's been fearless. He still works. He's 73 years old and he's still working. He doesn't want to retire. So all those things, I see that, and he's a very good father.
How often have you told him about your dad?
I don't tell him anything. Like I said, I don't tell him anything because I feel sometimes like he knows. It's a mistake we all make sometimes.
Have you ever told your dad that he's your role model?
No, I have never, because I always assume that he knows.
No. Look at this. This is about expression, everybody. And for your father, for Father's Day, he's still alive. You know what would be an amazing gift?
What?
Pick up the phone and tell him that he's your role model. And tell him
that would make him incredibly happy, I'm sure.
And tell him why. In your case, your speech is to your dad.
Exactly.
In your case, your speech is to your dad. Dad, you're my role model. And let me tell you why. And you show in your own life what you learned from him when things got tough for you. Can everybody see, we go through life and we assume that people are, connected, and we assume that people know. And think about if Monica didn't set up this webinar. The odds are tomorrow you wouldn't have told your dad that he's your role model.
Right.
And that day would have been wasted. That's pretty amazing. That is truly, truly amazing. So what I would like thank you, Ivan. What I would like everybody to do here is I would like everybody to take a moment, and I'm going to take you through how you're going to put this together. How you're going to put this together without writing out a long speech, because that's the beauty of this. You're going to break your speech down into scenes. We're going to think of your speech in a series of scenes. So it would begin with your message. In the next box, there would be 2 or 3 stories of who are you. In the following box, what I put here is, why am I sharing this? I want no regrets. I want to express myself. I want no regrets. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down bullet points of your 5 scenes. Does everybody see that? You're going to write down bullet points of all your 5 scenes. So the first thing you should think about now is, who do I want to deliver the message to? Could be your own father, as we just saw in the case of Ivan, or it could be to your family. What is my message? What are 2 or 3 stories that can allow the person listening to really understand who I am? Now, with a family member, we assume they know, but you can go to a deeper level. Then you're going to take me to the struggle in your story and what you realized out of that struggle. And then you're going to take me to a closing message. Does everybody see this? And who is going to be the brave person to want to go through this process with me right now, live? Who wants to have the value of giving a speech tomorrow that can basically be done right now and the other people can learn from it? Is it Ivan? Is it Roberto? Ivan.
Well, Robert is next. It has to be equal, Rosh. Ivan and Roberto. Okay, Ivan first. Okay, you too.
Ivan, you're speaking to your dad. What's your message?
Are you asking me or you're asking Roberto?
No, I'm asking you. We'll start with Ivan and we'll go to Roberto. You're speaking to your dad tomorrow on Father's Day. What is your message to your dad?
Well, basically, I'm going to do what you just said. I'm going to be fearless and I'm just going to tell him how I feel.
Right.
I'm going to tell him.
I want to, you'll see how much more powerful it is. Trust me, if you structure it. So what would your message be to your dad?
No, I'll tell my dad that I love him.
Good. What are 2 or 3 stories that you can share with your father?
One of the stories is, how hard he has worked for us to be able to have what we have. That's one thing that I've never told him. I should. And another thing is that he cares about me like I'm still a little kid, even though I'm already, an adult.
And when did you see that the most? When did you need your dad the most and he was there?
No, he's always there.
But what was the one moment?
When I've had issues, with I don't remember at this time, but there's been several times where, I have needed somebody to talk to and I call him and he's there always to listen.
So I want you to bring that up. And then what have you come to realize about those moments?
No, I've come to realize that he's always been there for me.
You know what the problem
is?
You know what the problem is? That you haven't expressed this until now.
Yeah, exactly.
And the solution is you are going to do it. Let me show you, and then we'll get to you, Roberto. According to my method, how your speech should go. Message. Dad, I love you. Character development. You've always been my role model. You've always been the person that I've looked up to. You've always been the person that has been there for me. Conflict. But you know what my problem is? My problem is that sometimes I can't express myself. Solution. So on this Father's Day, I'm going to stop that because it's wrong. I'm going to finally tell you how much I love you. Closing message. I hope this begins a new relationship with us. where you know every single day how much I care about you. That's expression. That's power. That's connection.
Yes.
And that's change. Got it, Ivan?
Got it. Got it for sure.
Roberto.
Yes, sir.
You know your message to your family tomorrow. It's find God the way I found God. Right?
Yes.
What's your character development? What are some things that you would want to tell them about yourself?
I think that this time they know everything about me related to God. I had the problem before that I couldn't express my feeling because that was the way that I was growing in my family.
That's the way you grew up.
Exactly.
And I bet you
But
didn't get...
now it's easy for me to say I love you, and I always express that to my father also. I love you. I'm so proud of you, and that's what I have been trying to do also with my daughters.
Have you done it successfully?
I'm sorry, is that again?
You think you've done it well?
I don't know. I'm trying to do my best every day. I think that they definitely are getting that message and they are also working on it, but I don't know if I'm actually being successful.
So you have to talk tomorrow about how difficult it was for you to express yourself, because I bet you when you looked for expression from your father probably said what? Your father probably said, you know what? You know, we don't need to show our feelings. We need to be tough guys, right?
Yes.
And so it took you many, many years to understand the importance of what's known as authentic communication. And this Father's Day, what I realized is that I got to work on this every day. And I'm going to do that. Problem, solution. Closing message is, I hope tomorrow that if you ever feel like I'm not showing you my emotions, tell me, because I'll work on it.
Yes, sir.
Problem, solution, message, character development, conflict, realization, closing message. Message. I'm trying my best to learn how to express myself. It hasn't been easy for me. The way I grew up, as you all know here, was never to show myself, even when times were tough, never to express my pain, to hold my pain inside. But I realized when I held my pain inside, I couldn't connect with anyone. I'm going to work on my emotions every single day because I have to break out of the past. And I want to create this relationship where you can enjoy and love what I do. And I want to have open communication. And I hope this will create a new bond and a deeper bond for all of us.
Yes, that's what I have been trying to do. I'm going to share with you that long time ago, one of my daughter, my oldest daughter, and that's why I told you before that sometimes you believe that you are actually communicating, and they know that they are the most important thing in my life after our Lord, after God. But sometimes you believe that you are expressing that, and they know that you love them, but it's not good enough, because my oldest daughter, sometime when I was trying to help her, because she was suffering for something that was happening at that time in her life. And when I was trying to help her, she told me, Daddy, I love you very much, but unfortunately, you didn't build that kind of a relationship talking about this topic. And that really hurt me, because I thought that I was doing fine. Are you following me? I don't know if you are. So since that day, everything changed for me.
No, I'm following you 100% perfectly. Your daughter was reaching out to you. Your daughter was saying, I want more connection. Your daughter was saying, I want more expression. But Roberto, where this begins is vulnerability. Being able to cry. Crying isn't a bad thing sometimes.
Yes, no, I know that for sure.
It's not weakness. Sometimes it's the way that we connect. Show me the tears. Show me the pain. Time is precious, right? We've all been through this process where priorities have changed. The rich have become poor. The poor have become rich. Everything is upside down. The one thing that we do have is connection with our family. And we're seeing this here. And I'm so glad Monica put this together because we're seeing how many lives can even be changed from this webinar. Whether it's Roberto, you and your daughter's connecting, or Ivan, it's you and your dad. This is critical stuff. Critical stuff to really put it together, to start putting this together. Monica, do we have another volunteer? I hope I helped you, Roberto and Ivan.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
A lot.
We have Subal.
Okay.
Okay. Subal, are you on?
Subal, are you still there?
He's muted.
Okay.
Okay.
Subal is still there.
Yes, he's in. Right.
All right, there you are, Subal. So have you been listening? Have you been listening? Oh, he's frozen there, right? Or not?
Frozen? You're okay?
For the most part.
Okay. So if you, Subal, we heard about, there's two cases here about how you assume that people understand you. What we didn't bring up is your dad. Tell me about your dad.
My dad. Oh, okay. Well, yes. My dad is a person who I respect for a couple of reasons. Speaking of, obviously, for Father's Day, he followed his passion for God at a very early age, and he came over to this country to follow that passion. And I have a lot of respect for that. He came from a Hispanic background, which didn't necessarily provide him the situation where he can express his feelings openly and easily, rather. His father was a hardworking father who raised a family of 11, sorry. And so one-on-one time with his father wasn't as readily available, and that, I believe, was one of the main reasons why his communication is the way it is, or was the way it was, rather. We both changed our relationship dramatically after mother and him divorced, and we both ended up living together for quite a few years, and which forced us into really bonding on a different level, which we had never done before. So at around the age of 18 or so, our relationship changed pretty drastically, and communication, since this is obviously the theme of this, for us, reached a whole nother level, which in a lot of cases may be level 1, but in our case was a whole new beginning.
My question for you now, go ahead.
Yes.
Is how can you take that communication to another level if it is just level 1?
Right. So both of us, not knowing as much as we could, I think it's very important that that I'm open with him as to what my expectations are for our future, and to not be satisfied with what we have right now. I think we both still have a lot of improvement, and for the sake of my children, it's also very, very important that I practice that with him.
Have you told him this?
No.
Tomorrow's the day.
Tomorrow's the day.
Tomorrow's the day on Father's Day. Everybody, and I hope when people are watching this later on, do you see this? From Ivan to Subal to Ricardo, there are messages that people need to say which can actually change lives, right? And you just brought it up, Subal. You said about for your children. Like, look, we've taken it to this level. You give them character development. You show them some examples. And then you show him what it can be at the next level. For the sake of your children. That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm very, very much aware now, due to listening to you and Roberto and the other guests on board, how important that really is, but how challenging it has been to even bridge the gap of conversation around what that looks like, because we don't always have the tools needed to bridge that.
Okay,
And I'm thankful for you.
well, here I am. Let's do it together. Let's do it together. Ready? Here I am.
That's it.
What would your message be to your dad?
I would tell him thank you for your unnerving support of me, and I hope that we can continue to develop our relationship and take it to the next level starting now.
Okay, what's character development? What examples can you show?
I would give him the example of when our relationship pivoted, and because I know that's something that he can relate to very, very well. It's a situation that we obviously both remember very well. And I would show him what life was like, or what our relationship was like. I would explain to him, like, look, that our relationship before then was this, and then after that was quite different. I love it. I'd love it for it to continue to grow that way. And thanks for calling me as often as you do now. Distance is there between us physically, but I feel like emotionally that we bonded on a different level. And I'd love for that.
No, but you haven't gotten to like the core of this. What is the problem?
The problem is that we need to invest more time in each other, and that problem is on me, and it's obviously on both of us to continue to do that, and not let other things get in the way of that.
And what's the solution?
Let's book those flights.
Right. And what's your closing message?
I love you, Dad, and I look forward to a better relationship.
Boom. Boom. Monica, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Do you see this?
Yes, amazing. Just so beautiful to see all the transformation and the connection through this method.
I mean, it's incredible how it just opens people up. It allows people to kind of hit on what they are kind of holding back. So let me get back to the workbook for a moment.
Roberto?
Does Roberto have a question? Roberto.
Yes, sir.
I want somebody to be able to put together the speech they're going to give tomorrow.
To my father.
No, not to your father, to your family, to your daughters.
Oh, to my daughters.
In your case, I think it's different. For everybody, it's different. I think
Yes.
what we've realized today is that some people need to talk to their dads, and some people need to talk to their children. So, what would you say to your daughters tomorrow?
Well, I would say one more time that I love you. I love them very much, and I hope that they can understand that the mistake that I probably know that I had in the past was because I couldn't express my feelings, and from now on it's gonna be completely different because I love you very much, and I know for you to know that, and that I will be there every time that you need me, and I'm going to be there to support you every time that you need me.
Well, remember what I said to everybody about showing me and not telling me. What was an example when you weren't there for them?
An example. Give them a big, I don't know. It's a good question. Probably that's my real fear, to express my feelings.
When were you not there for them when they needed you to express yourself?
I probably don't talk too much, but I want to express my feeling with big, kisses and.
Let me go back, Roberto. You got to be specific here. When you're opening up and you're telling them, I really haven't been there. Part of character development is show me. When weren't you there? And by the way, this connects to your overall, when you first started talking about God and wanting to bring them closer. In order for them to get closer to God, guess what needs to happen first? They need to get closer to you. And what we call authentic communication is when you can actually say to people, you know, remember that time when I wasn't there? I'm sorry. That's part of character development.
Yeah.
That's authenticity.
Yes, I understand. I believe that I have been there all the time, but probably it's gonna be was only physically, but not because they actually had the feeling that I was there for them.
Right.
I
So
understand.
you took that for granted. You assumed that they knew how much you may have loved them or cared about them, but you really didn't express it.
Yeah, I understand.
That has to change tomorrow. Everybody will see. Now, Monica, is there a way that I could get everyone up on the panel on one screen?
Yes.
Let's try that for a moment.
1 second. Yes.
Okay, so everybody is here. When we first, and I didn't say much, when we first joined the call, I didn't say it a lot because I don't like to kind of, people always ask me like, what is the method about? And I like to have real answers come about. So within the span of an hour and 12 minutes, we have discovered, when you look at Subala, that his relationship with his dad needs to be taken to another level for the sake of his children. And he's going to take a step to do that tomorrow. With Ivan, we recognize that you have a father who's a role model, and you've never fully expressed that to him, and you're going to do it. With Roberto, it's, you know what? God is so important in my life, but I got to make my children realize that they may not have been emotionally available, and that's going to change tomorrow. Now, the reason I bring all of this up is, how did everybody express this tonight? Why did that happen? It happened for a specific reason. It happened because I spoke to you about what are your passions and what do you stand for. And this brings me to Monica. So, in my work with Monica, as many of you know, I've released a video. Monica has survived cancer twice and really understands how precious time is. And Monica, let's take you through the process for a second. Even though tomorrow is Father's Day, I want to give you the opportunity for you to speak to your children tomorrow. What would you tell them?
I will tell them that I love them, that God has given me the opportunity to live so I can give everything that I have and express everything that I have in my heart for them and show it them through example,
Good.
putting God first in life, and telling them the importance of family.
And what would your character development be?
My character development is to be the best version of themselves.
Well, no, character development is when you bring them into yourself. So probably in that section, you would talk about your mom.
Okay, yes. In my life, faith is very important, and I have discovered that the reason why faith is so important is because my mother has played a very important role in my life. She is my role model. She has planted the seed of faith, but through her example, I have learned to be I had to learn to about perseverance and never giving up. So this is a great message for me and for all the women out there that how important the role model of our fathers and mothers are right now. So my mom is is definitely my character development here.
What is the problem, Monica?
The problem that I have faced is going through a disease, cancer, okay? But also, my mother has faced the same thing. And through her example, and together we have overcome, and most important, through faith and trusting in the Lord.
And that's your solution. What's your closing message?
My closing message to everyone is that family is very important, is that everyone has a story to share. And as we have heard all of these amazing fathers, they all have their story. They all have their own struggles, but they have overcome also so many. And their own desire is that to show and to express to their families first the love. And my that's my closing message too for as well for my family that I love them and that through the challenges that I have faced, we have always been together. We have always been
We have,
united.
there's a few things that I want to get to here, and then we'll go to some questions, hopefully, that people have. Is a lot of people say, why is it important to express yourself? And why is that so important? And I want everyone to listen closely to me. Time is limited. And we see how often those that we love the most don't really get to hear what they need to hear. And the reason this is a variety of reasons. Number one, this is because we get busy. Number two, as we saw on this call, is that we take things for granted. And number three is that we don't even know where to begin when it comes to expression. The fear behind all of this is a fear of vulnerability. It's a fear of judgment. It's a fear of getting too emotional. And that's why speaking takes practice. You cannot wing. Remember when Ivan said, well, I'm just going to pick up the phone. No, it won't be as effective if you actually put thought into it to say, what is my message? What am I going to tell my dad about the way that I feel? What is the problem? What is the solution? It takes preparation. One of the areas that I want to get into a little bit here now on this webinar is that how speaking is power. Every great movement started with a speech. From Moses to Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King. It all started with a speech. And one of the things that you have to realize is that you gain tremendous power when you can fully express yourself. Let me get back to the workbook here so I can actually read this to people and you can understand where I am coming from there when I talk about just in terms of the power that you get from it. We saw like the different scenes that you can put it in. And I want to read you all the following story about a client that I worked with. I obviously changed the name, but it can show you. So Larry, we'll call him Larry, struggled with communication in the workplace. And he never voiced his opinion in meetings, and it bothered him. And this silence affected his self-esteem, and he was tired of living this way. And he heard about the personal growth benefits of my formula, and he set up an appointment. And I said to him, why do you think you can't express your opinion? And he said, I have no idea. I'm just that type of guy. And I said, you've always been that way? And he said, after my wife died, I changed. And I said, tell me about it. And Larry went on to tell the story of his wife's tragic death. She was a young woman who had a brain aneurysm, and he was now raising 3 daughters on his own. And he says, I'll never forget that call. She was driving when it happened, and the police told me my wife was in an accident, and Larry was stuck in trauma. So I said to him, let's come up with a speech about your wife. And he said, I said to him, what's your message? Remember like what we just went through here? And he cracked a grin and he said, just smile. And it's so ironic. At work, people are always taken aback by how often I smile. And I told him, I love that message. Now let's make smile authentic. I said, let's get into personal story here. And he talked about how she loved charities. Now what happened, and you can read this as we go further, after Larry was able to tell his story, it helped heal his struggle. It is in communication that someone like Larry was able to rediscover and reframe his journey and use that as a means to connect with other people. Now, why do I say this to you? All of us have struggle. But often we allow the struggle to define us rather than reframing the struggle. It is very, very important when you go back and look on this one call here. Now we have regrets, right? Like I haven't talked about some of the regrets. And Subal, you were able to repair the relationship, but now you want to even repair it more. And Roberto, you struggle sometimes with expression. We all have to struggle, but the key here is to reframe the struggle. And the way that we reframe the struggle, is by speaking about solutions. You know, it's funny, I say here in the workbook that if we all go back to our 8-year-old self, I don't know, if someone can mute it, it would be helpful. But if we all go back to our 8-year-old self, how'd you look at the world? There was most likely wonder, curiosity, and hope. And everyone has his or her struggles, and slowly the hope of childhood is eroded. And for some people, this happens overnight with one incident. And for others, it is a long process in which they don't even realize they have lost their confidence in their voice. MicDrop's mission is to bring back your voice. It starts with rediscovering the gifts you have. When does life suck the voice out of you? Asked one client. He showed me a video of his 3-year-old nephew. And he said, I bet you when he's 20, he'll be afraid to speak. So much of this is your self-confidence. Because we have low self-confidence, we fear vulnerability. We fear, as we saw on this webinar tonight, exposing inner truth. There is too much risk. It is better to remain in the shadows. Think about how much you are missing. It frustrates you. When life calls for you to speak, you fake it. You go back to that one course on public speaking. There's no true message. There's no transitions. The speech is dead. And in a certain sense, you are dead because you become a robot. And what I'm telling everybody who's on this is that true freedom is the ability to express yourself. That's what being alive is. Being alive is having a message. Being alive is being able to share who you are with your family. There's background noise. I don't know who that is, Monica.
Subal, can you mute yourself?
Subal, if you can just mute yourself. There we go. Being alive is being able to convey your message. Being alive is being able to take advantage of every day. And let me tell everybody here, this is not theory. I do not teach theory. I'm not sitting with you and saying, have short sentences or use brevity. No, it's simply having the confidence of what is my message? What am I trying to say? And then having the ability to bring people into your personal narrative. And then it's having the courage to bring people into what is the problem and what is the solution. At the very beginning of this, I said, what this method will also allow you to do is it'll allow you to have those difficult conversations in your life. Those conversations you have been putting off. Do not put off these conversations. Time is precious. Every single moment we have is precious. And I hope you can develop a message, develop character development, show problems, show solutions, and then show a close. Now, it's interesting. I haven't even brought up the word happiness yet. and psychologists have been trying to figure out for a long time what makes us happy. So Sigmund Freud thought he had the answer. He called it the pleasure principle. He said, you know what makes us happy? It's pleasure. You know, we go to work because we want a nice steak, or we work so hard because we want a nice house. And a guy came along who was in Auschwitz concentration camp. And he was sitting in a group of a bunch of men who had been starved before they were going to be put to their deaths. And one of the men was able to bring in or smuggle in a loaf of bread. And he saw how happy this man was when he was eating the bread. And this author's name was Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And what he said was, it's not happiness, it's not pleasure that brings us happiness. It's meaning. When you begin to speak, when you begin to express yourself, you quickly find your meaning. That's why I began this whole process with, what are your passions? And when you are able to communicate your meaning to your family, you live forever. I say live forever for this reason, because your children carry on your meaning, what's important to you. If you take it for granted and you don't learn how to express yourself, not only will that hold you back in business, not only will that hold you back in sales, not only will that hold you back in connecting with friends, but most importantly, it will hold you back from connecting with those that you love the most, and that is your parents and your children. Take the time today to actually tell the people in your life what you've been wanting to tell them for years, but have been too afraid to say. Structure it, don't wing it. Think about what a clear message is, and then think about what stories you can use to validate your message. Any good speech or any good expression educates us. And that's where problem and solution comes in. Because this will take you to another level, where you will then bring them into a closing message, which is your future vision and how you think the relationship can go from there. You can look at life, as I often say, in one of two ways. Either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. And if you look at life as if everything is a miracle, then every moment of your life has meaning in it. Even the times in our life when we have struggled, even the times in our life when we have felt pain, even the times in our life where we have disagreed with our parents. Every moment has meaning in it. And it is up to us to reveal the good in those moments. And the way we will reveal the good is by expressing them and finding meaning so we can take our relationships to the next level. There will hopefully come a time when people will really be able to see that everything that happens is a miracle, because when that time comes, everyone will want to share their experiences and their stories. But until that time, we need to put the effort in to really developing who we are. So I wanted to open this up to questions. If anybody has any questions about expression, I think that would be amazing.
Okay, Carolina, who is part of our team, she will be sharing some questions for you.
Hi, Rosh. Yes, we have a couple of questions from the audience. I have John. He wants to, he says, can you tell us the story of how you grew up?
Yes, good question. So I grew up in Rye, New York. It's a suburb of New York City in Westchester County, New York. My father was an orthodontist, but really he had the love for the theater. And at the age of 7, he took me on an open audition for a show called A Midsummer's Night's Dream, which was being done by Joseph Papp at the Delacorte Theater. And that show had a lot of famous people in it. It had William Hurt, who went on to win an Academy Award, and a woman named Christine Baranski. And Joseph Papp hired me. And that really began a career of performance. My big break came in 1983 when I got the role of Patrick Dennis, starring next to Angela Lansbury in Jerry Herman's Name. And I'm glad this question was asked because it was in the theater where I really fell in love with connection. Because good performers are able to connect with their audience. And it was then that I really discovered what it meant to use emotional chords to move people. After my career in the theater, I actually went to journalism school at Columbia University in New York and got my first job in TV news in Naples, Florida. Now, while I was in Naples, Florida, I was impacted because I had gone from journalism school to working at this small cable station, and at that small cable station, I had to see a lot of tough stuff. You know, part of being a reporter is that you cover a lot of tragedy. And in covering tragedy, what I saw was that it was very therapeutic for people to share their story. I mean, think about it from a news reporter's perspective. When you are interviewing people, probably in the worst moments of their lives, when they're able to share, in those cases, who their loved ones were, I found it to be very therapeutic for the victims in that case. After Naples, I went to Miami where I worked for 17 years. And several years ago, I met an entrepreneur who had a fear of public speaking. And I was able to take him through this same exact process and really change his life. I can honestly say that, where he's now speaking everywhere. And I decided that I had a mission. And my mission was going to be to lift people up through a public speaking method. And thank God, 2 years ago, I started MicDrop. We have trained hundreds of people in this method. Some of those people just in corporations. Some of those people have elected to take our stage and share their story. Because what happens when you share your story is that you realize that A, you're not alone, and B, you can impact and uplift others. So there's a lot of value in that. And C, people have used it just for personal development in situations like this. How do they connect with those closest to them? So I hope that answers that question.
Absolutely. What a wonderful life story. Amazing. Thank you. We also have another question from Melissa. She wants to know, can you tell us how you chose this career path?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I was at Channel 7, a successful reporter. I was there for many years. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I met this person named Ellie Nash. And the video's on YouTube. I encourage everybody to go to the MicDrop page. You can see a lot of these videos that are out there already. And Ellie came over to me because he saw I was on TV every night, and he said, you know, Rosh, I got a real problem with speaking. I can't speak in front of my company. I can't speak in general. What can I do about that? And I said, I think I can help you. Let me try to write down a method of how I connect. And maybe it can help you connect. And actually, this workbook that you see here came from my original work with Ellie Nash. Mm-hmm. I sat down and I said to myself, okay, how do I connect with an audience? Okay, I use emotion. What is the power of how I connect? I use a personal story. I knew about story structure from the theater. By the way, that same story structure is used in every play. So it's everything that I had done, and I put it together for Ellie. And Ellie stood in front of me in the living room, and I said, you know, what is your message, and what is your story? And in Ellie's case, it turns out that at 8 years old, he was molested. And I told him, I said, you know, share the story. I think that will help you break through barriers. Ellie shared that story. And the interesting part of that is it led to the formation of an organization that has helped thousands of lives. So the point here is that when you share your story, you never know who you can impact and inspire. And subsequent to training Ellie, I said, oh my God, that as much as I love reporting, that I have a higher mission. And that mission is to help people in large ways. And I'm doing it, thank God, every day.
What an incredible story. That's amazing that, you know, you can reach a lot of people that you don't even think you would. Let's see. Andrew wants to know, what's the most interesting story that happened to you?
Ooh. God, so many. In terms of reporting, in terms of news, there have been a lot. If I had to put a highlight on it, the theater was a major part of my life. As I mentioned before, the theater gave me not only the foundation for connection, but it showed me the beauty of art. Art exposes truth. And we need truth nowadays more than ever. Like when we talk about connection, what we're really talking about is let's have those real conversations. Because real conversations will take us inevitably to the next level. When we have the tough conversations, we will all be taken to another level. And one of the reasons that we don't have those tough conversations is because of a fear of vulnerability. And so I believe people need, methods to connect. But back to the original question of what was my most interesting story. I've interviewed a lot of famous people, from presidents to celebrities. I've performed in 3 Broadway shows. It's a tough question because it is such an open-ended question, but I'll relate it, I guess, to MicDrop. And one of my favorite stories in the 2 years of MicDrop is there was a CEO of a company that I went into, because we use this for team building in companies. You can imagine when people get to open up, look how much closer we all are here right now. And so when I went into a company, this CEO had struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder for many years and anxiety. And he said, when it comes time for my speech, I want to talk about that. And he spoke about it, and we put his video out. The video has been seen more than 40,000 times. Now, here's what's interesting. He said he was walking down the street, and a man came over to him and said, I want you to know I watched your MicDrop video, and you saved my life. The speaker said, what? What do you mean I saved your life? He said, for years I thought I was alone, struggling with OCD and anxiety, and I felt very down and depressed. I watched your speech, and you gave me hope. Hope is so important today.
Yes.
And the way that we are given hope is when we can share our testimonies, when we can share our stories. But once again, you can't wing them. You got to put work into them to be effective. Everyone who has taken the MicDrop stage has been trained in this method. But when you do put the work in it, the reward is tremendous, tremendous connection.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I have one last question from Luisa. She wants to know, what's the funniest mistake that you ever made throughout your career?
Mistakes are normal. Mistakes are normal. Mistakes are natural. I made mistakes in the theater where, after Act 1, you're supposed to change into clothes for Act 2, and I've forgotten, and I'm wearing the same clothing as Act 1. In TV news, I was pretty lucky that, I never missed a live shot. There are some reporters who they're live at 6 o'clock and they're not there when they go live. I can't off the top of my head. Now look, we all make mistakes, and I talk to people. Perfection is a big obstacle to progress. When people are so focused on being perfect all the time, they never get anywhere. Part of the things with speaking and communication and connection is just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yes, definitely. I can relate to that because I am a perfectionist. Yes. Go ahead, Monica.
Okay, I have Jacob here asking, Rosh, are you a dad?
Yes.
And he's also asking, what are your favorite moments with your kids?
Well, I have, thank God, 4 children. And a big moment in my life was, we were really blessed with 2 children, and my wife had numerous miscarriages. And it was a very, very difficult time for me. And finally, she gets pregnant, and we go to the doctor. And as the son of a medical professional, I know it's never good news when the doctor wants to see you after an ultrasound. And the doctor said, there's one artery in the umbilical cord. There's supposed to be two. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, about 50% of the time it can mean the end to the pregnancy. And so that was a moment that really changed a lot of things for me, because I decided that I was going to really reach out to a higher power. And I did. I said, if I can, have a healthy baby, and my biggest baby yet, that, I'll dedicate my life to inspiring and uplifting others. And you can look online and see I've done a lot of that work. And that baby was born, and the cesarean section, the doctor pulls him out and says, congratulations, this is your biggest baby yet.
Oh, wow.
And it gave me such an appreciation for life and for God and for purpose and for passion and for my children. Since COVID hit, the last 4 months have not been an easy time in business for anybody. But one of the beautiful things is the amount of time I got to spend with my kids. It's been incredible. I was telling my wife that one of the things I'll take away from this is I'm so glad I had those moments. There's a line from a show that I was in called Member of the Wedding. And the line goes like this. This time is passing, and when it is gone, and no power on earth can ever bring it back again. Never in all the world. When it is gone, it is gone. When the moment is gone, it's gone. And so many of us, we waste those moments. We waste it being worried about things that never come to fruition. We waste it being sometimes worried about managers or bosses. We waste it sometimes being at work too much. That the real moments in life can never be recaptured. So when you have the moment, seize it. And that's part of the reason that we're on this webinar, is that when you have those moments to tell your father that he's a role model, or to tell your children how much you love them, or to tell your father that I want to take my relationship with you to the next level, seize those moments, because when they pass, they pass. And I really understood this wholeheartedly when my father passed away. Now, he passed away at 90 years old, but my dad was really my best friend. And of course, I took moments for granted. What I would give to have my father over for a dinner, or what I would give to speak to my dad again in person. And so I'm very passionate about telling the people that you love in your life truly how you feel, because sometimes moments pass and you can't get them back. And so that's a little bit of a deeper level about me and Father's Day, is that every moment is precious, so please seize the moment and make the most of it.
How beautiful. Thank you for sharing that beautiful story, Rosh. Really touched our hearts.
Thank you.
And I have a last question to all the dads right here, and this is a challenge. Let's see if you can do that. Sebastian asked, if your kids are around, if you can bring them over to the call and present your kids and give them a big hug.
Okay, let's try to do it. Let me try to get my kids here. I got to call my wife to have her bring the kids in.
Can you do that, Roberto? You, Ivan, you, Subal, bring your little kids, bring your children over, and show everybody who are watching this beautiful family.
Unfortunately, I'm by myself right now.
Call them.
Sorry.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me try to bring some of my kids in here right now.
Okay, let's see.
It's a beautiful, beautiful idea.
Yes.
You know, I want the relationship to continue. So Monica has my information that she can pass along to you also.
Yes. I have Rosh Lowe information. You can also find him on Facebook,
For Father's Day.
Instagram, and
Yeah, why not? This is one of my kids here. Say hello.
hi.
This is the one that I told the story about.
Oh, nice.
About your birth.
Miracle. Okay, wonderful. Okay. Okay, so we want to thank everyone for watching. It has really, it's been a blessing to have Rosh Lowe with us today. And we have learned a lot. This is not only for fathers, but for mothers, for the entire family, and to discover the value of family and to share our stories, because every story matters and everyone has their own story. So we invite you, and we share with all of you the gift of Father's Day, and we wish you a wonderful weekend with your families. Remember that during these difficult times, the most important is to be connected and united, even from the distance. So we are here for you, and we hope to see you in our next workshop. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. God bless.
God
Thank
bless.
you. You
Bye.
too.
Bye.